And we welcome you into the Hannycast for Monday, February the 23rd. I'm Charles Hanagriff, along with former LSU coach Dan Canevari. LSU runs their record to 8-0 over the weekend. 3-game sweep over in Jacksonville. They beat Indiana 14-7, Notre Dame 9-4, and then UCF 11-0. That game was shortened to 7 innings on Sunday by the run rule. Dan, you first trip out on the road as this team gets to just to this tournament, and really was in control most of the last 2 games. They had to come from behind in game 1, so we saw a lot of different scenarios this weekend. What were your biggest takeaways from this weekend?
They're really good. It's my biggest takeaway. They're a really good team, and you saw some step ups occur. When we talk about where guys move up, they play to the level you're hoping they're going to play at, and now after a couple of good weekends, now you can see if they're going to maintain that level that we're looking for. I think a road trip like that to Jacksonville is always good to bond your team together, get guys a little closer, get them out of their home environment, and the better competition that they played. I think Jay got a real good read on his team playing those teams. And the fan base, of course, shows up anywhere we go. So great weekend for the LSU Tigers. Great weekend for Jay Johnson, the coaching staff.
Can I say this about a level of competition too? Because it's easy to lose a game like this. Kent State came to Baton Rouge last week on the wraparound on Monday, so they really get to talk about that game. LSU won it, but more importantly, Kent State went to Knoxville, Tennessee, and won 2 out of 3 this weekend. And the third game, the one that they lost, actually it was the first game, but the one of the 3 that they lost by 1 run. So, you look at the schedule, you say Kent State, well, it's a northern team. Maybe they're not. Apparently, the Golden Flashes are not all that bad. So
they're not just flashes in the pan.
Just ask the guys over at Tennessee. So maybe a nice looking win there in the non-conference too. Before we get to the game, we'll tell you we're brought to you by everythinglsu.com. This is Bayou Apparel. Go to everythinglsu.com. When they say everything, get your Lane Kiffin apparel right now. The Lane Train shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies are all there. The visor tees, if you're a Lane Kiffin fan, get out ahead of that. Sweatshirts, Bayou Bandits t-shirts, polos, LSU championship gear left over from last year. If you're a Lynn Rollins fans, pucker up and kiss that baby goodbye. We got those shirts too. Lots of LSU apparel. It's everything LSU from Bayou Apparel. Again, go to everythinglsu.com. All right, game number 1. This game, LSU had to come from behind, Dan. They trailed going into the 8th inning by a score of 5-4, and they put a 9 spot up on the board. So when you get to the end of the game, and you got 18 hits and you got 14 runs, and you had production throughout the lineup. You had 3 different guys with 3 hits, 3 more guys with a pair of hits. Zach York drove in 4 runs, and you had 7 different players drive in runs. So offensively, you were looking at a kid in Tony Newbeck who was an SEC starter last year for Missouri. Now, he didn't have good numbers. He had a double-digit ERA, but he was in the SEC last year. LSU got him out of the game by the 4th and then tattooed a variety of relievers once they got to that 8th inning.
Yeah, I tell you what, the biggest stat that I see, Charlie, is we struck out 5 times, but we had 14 walks. I mean, that's just a big difference. And pitchers struggle on the mound. But one of the things that I saw in this game and all weekend, and since we've been watching so far this year, is Jay plays on offense, plays all 9 innings, meaning we don't give up at bats. We fight with 2 strikes. We don't get out early in the at-bat. We're not overswinging. We're very selective in the strike zone. We're not afraid to go to 2 strikes. And Jay's comment that I've seen many times on the internet. He did a clinic up in the national convention, and he said, if we go down, take the pitcher with you. So if you strike out, take the pitcher with you. Make it a 7-8 pitch at bat. Fight the guy and wear him down. And I think the 8th inning was very indicative of that. Meaning, we wore them down, and then they finally broke down, and the team busted out. They smelled the blood, and the Sharks hit the water, and it was over. And that was my takeaway. You got every guy hitting in the lineup pretty much, depending on the day. So they got enough offense through the lineup where somebody's not having a good day, somebody picks up. So that's a big takeaway from game one.
The other thing I wanted to kind of talk about here a little bit is LSU facing the left-handed pitcher in this game. Now, Johnson's got some options, obviously, but he chose here. It's a very left-handed heavy lineup for LSU with what they ran out there on opening day, but he's got some options and he chose to take them in this game. John Pearson got the start at DH. Braden Simpson, now he's in left field with Stanfield out, but we know he can play the infield too. And of course, you turn Stephen Milam around and he bats from the other side. So you can go left-handed dominant if you want, but Johnson's got this club in his bag to where he can put some more right-handed bats in there if he'd like to.
Yeah, he could put the right-handed bats in against the left-handed pitcher to start the game. And then if they bring in a righty, he just go to the bench and pull out some more lefties. The depth on offense is really special, and it gives Jay a lot of options. He can always keep the percentages in his favor with the lefty-righty matchups.
And he did that in this game. John Pearson got the start at DH. Remember, he had ended the previous game with a home run, and he brought in Mason Braun, who started a handful of games already. He goes 3 for 3 off the bench, Dan, and drives in a couple of runs. So this is kind of what we're talking about here with the ability to turn the bats around if you need it. Now let's talk about Case and Evans a little bit. This stat line is not going to look great. 5 innings, 3 runs, and 2 walks, but and only 4 strikeouts. But all of the damage came in 1 inning, and it was in the third. You had a couple of walks. That was the worst part. Then you had an infield single. You had a little dribbler that got to the outfield. And then Kate Arambidi misplayed a bunt, threw the ball out of play. So this is a lot different. And you're a pitching coach. You can kind of talk to the psychology of this. A guy gives up 3 runs in an inning. Well, that's not good. But there's a difference between a couple of little infield rollers and, yeah, the walks were on him, and then an error rather than, 3 doubles and a 2-run homer or something.
Yeah, he had an unfortunate inning. But again, if you walk the guys, they're going to score. You got to just in your mind, if you walk somebody, you count on a score. You're going to have an infield single. You're going to have an error when you don't need it. That seems to happen a lot. But to me, the most impressive thing is, he went 5 innings. The next 2 innings, he put up zeros. So not letting that inning take you down for the rest of the game, staying in the inning and just getting through it, and then understanding that's going to happen. I think the other thing is Cason's got to get used to the fact that on Friday, no matter who you play, the adrenaline is up, and you have to match that adrenaline early in the game and maintain it through 5 or 6 innings.
He did get 2 strikeouts to get out of the inning. So he recovered, but his numbers through 2 games are not as much as we had hoped. The ERA is about 6.5. Again, it's not like they're hitting rocket shots all over the park, but Dan, we've sort of gotten used to around here. The Friday night guy, Skeens, Anderson, when they ran Gage jump out there, knocking on the door to big leagues right now. Last few years, we've come to expect a certain level on Friday night. Evans has proven he can do that. It's just right now, I think he's still very much, again, you're the pitching coach, very much getting used to taking the ball first at the beginning of that first game.
It's a whole different mentality being a starting pitcher Friday night, taking the ball first to get yourself in that high adrenaline state, which he was used to last year. Like I said in the last podcast, he was used to watching a game for 4 or 5 innings and then, getting into the flow of the game, get the blood moving, watch guys play. And then all of a sudden go to the bullpen. Now you come in, you got a giant crowd, the game's on the line, pressure's on the hitters. You're high adrenaline. In this case, you've got to find a way to get yourself ready from the first pitch and fight off the adrenaline on the other team to get you through the first 3 or 4 innings and then take it to the 6th or 7th inning. And that's just something he's got to learn. He's definitely got enough talent, and he'll find it. He's getting closer and closer each week.
We're brought to you by Dependable Storage, dependablestorage.com. Secure, climate-controlled storage units across Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and into Mississippi, Prairieville, Houma, Youngsville, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Slidell. Climate-controlled storage units convenient locations, flexible lease terms, the use of their truck for new rental move-ins, business use, seasonal storage, student storage, perfect for summer break, or if you are spending a semester abroad. Check out Dependable Storage, where they want your stuff. Reliable storage space for every need. Like Skip always says, Dependable Storage, they want your stuff. Let's move to game two. LSU wins this one 9-4 against Notre Dame, and the Tigers were in control throughout. They got 2 runs in the second, 3 in the third, and 2 in the fourth to kind of put this one in their control. Cooper Moore, the transfer from Kansas, second straight good outing. Not quite as dominant as he was in week 1, Dan, but this guy is a strike thrower. 78 pitches, 62 strikes. I'm gonna ask you something here in a second. It's gonna sound strange, but I almost wonder.
No, I know what you're going to ask me.
Is he throwing too many strikes?
That's it. Everybody's throwing too many strikes. The answer is
good problem to have, but what I mean is sometimes you throw too many strikes, you give them too many bites at the apple, if you will.
Well, what's going to happen is as people get his reputation for throwing strikes, they're going to come out aggressive because they know, like Greg Maddux. He came out and people would swing early on Greg Maddux because they knew he was around the zone. So he's got to be probably in the beginning of the at-bats, got to look at it like he's almost got 1 or 2 strikes on the guys and be more competitive because they're going to swing. But in that case, if he gets them to hit it early, he saves his pitch count. So I think it's like, Charlie, can you ever have too much money?
I would love to be able to tell you.
Yeah, we're not in that. We're not in that league.
Give it all to me, and I'll tell you if it's too much. But
I think he'll make adjustments as they move along, and watch how the offenses try to adjust to what he does. On the mound and with the strike throwing ability. But still, if you throw strikes and you can throw it within the zone, that's really everything in college baseball.
He's really settling in nicely, making the move over from Kansas, where he was really their best pitcher a year ago, but he was more of the Sunday guy than the Friday guy. He's really settling in nicely here on a Saturday. So he was just pumping strikes in there for the first 5 innings, and ran into a little trouble in the 6th, and they got him out, but not anything to get in a tizzy about. And then the offense, another double-digit hit day. Jake Brown had 4 in the game. Aaron Beatty, who homered twice on the weekend, drove in a couple of runs in this game. This was one of the 2 homers that he had. And if I'm remembering right, this one was to straightaway center field. When you've got that 2-headed monster at the catcher, Omar Cerna looks like he's going to start probably 1 game a weekend. They still want Aaron Beatty's bat in there, Dan.
Oh yeah, you got to keep him in there. He's swinging the bat really well. The other thing I see though is like Jake Brown in the first game. He goes 0 for 5, right? Then all of a sudden he says, "No, I'm Jake Brown." Now he goes 4 for 5. So I mean, like I'm saying, guys can have a bad day, but then the next day they come back and somebody else picks them up when they're having a bad day, and having everybody hit through the lineup is just really a godsend for a coach because people won't go in slumps. They'll just say, "I had a bad day," and they'll get back to it.
Let me talk about Devin Sheeran, who came in through an inning and 2/3 scoreless, and he struck out 4. Dan, when you watch him, the velocity just explodes at you. The guy's in the high 90s, and he looks like a classic closer to me with that kind of velocity. You missed all of last year, but he seems to have come back and picked up, at a very high level for this soon in the season for a guy that missed a whole year. When you look at him and you say, "Hey, look, I got guys on base. I need to punch out." This is one of 2 guys that you were going to look at in that closer role here early.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy that could be that closer, high velocity. Be in the zone, he only 15 balls, 20 strikes in his outing, but it's tough to hit him. And I think as he pitches more and more, he's going to get even better. Just the way history, repeats itself with guys coming off surgery. They get better and better as they move along, AKA Chase Yours.
Yeah, and for him, he can work primarily off the fastball without a whole lot else. I don't know that he needs to throw 3-4 pitches for strikes. You'd like to have that, but when you're coming in for 3 or 4 batters, man, you can rear back and throw it 98, then go ahead and do that. That's probably going to be enough for you to get by. He did walk a couple of guys. The other player, if we get into a closing situation, still 2 weeks away from conference play, but Gavin Guidry has been pretty much perfect. And in his first game, he comes in and throws another scoreless inning. But Dan, for Guidry, on the season now, it's 11 strikeouts and no walks in 5 1/3 innings. He's got a couple of wins and a save in just 8 games. He's come in with a lot of emotion and coming off of a back injury. Man, we got to talk about elbow and shoulder injuries every year. The back injuries are less frequent, but they're just as scary, if not more scary. He doesn't seem to be tentative to me, and given his demeanor, I get why. But the other thing that I see, and you can speak more closely to this, I always thought Gavin Guidry had a great curveball. I thought he had an average as a freshman. I thought he had an average to slightly above average fastball. Now it looks like the fastball is better now deeper into his career. And the cutter, that's what I'm calling it anyway.
Right, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
It seems to really be helping. So he is able to throw multiple breaking pitches for strikes, and I think the fastball is better now than it was before. So you tell me what you see with Gavin Guidry.
Yeah, I see the fastball's better. Of course, when you had a back issue and now the back's healthy, that's a great thing because you get a lot of confidence. But the other thing is, that little cutter allows him to throw that breaking ball for a strike. Again, we talked about it last week. The big breaking ball, it's hard to get called strikes, guys. It's such a good curveball. They buckle and they take it with less than 2 strikes. In this case, with this little cutter, he can get into the counts and get to 2 strikes where they can't hold back. They got to protect the plate. Then he can bury that big curveball of his. So I think the 3-pitch mix and all of them around the plate is really just a great thing for Gavin and Nate Yeske calling pitches. They can just really get to work with that. And of course, like you said, Charlie, his fiery, competitive, leadership nature makes the whole team better.
Guys pitched in Omaha. He knows what the score is. We're brought to you by Town Square Pizza, downtown Baton Rouge on North Boulevard. Build your own pizza when you go in for lunch, the 8 inches and the 12 inches, up to 6 toppings, square, hot, delicious pizza, and really generous portions, too. You'll probably be bringing some home. They know that when you're working downtown, you got a limited amount of time for lunch. They'll get you in, get you out, and get you moving. The Town Square Pepperoni Pizza, the Main Street, which has got multiple cheeses on it, the Beauregard Town, which has got, just a little bit of everything on it, the mozzarella, the mushrooms, the grape tomatoes, the spinach, and onions, the red onions on that one. Delivery is available. Family packs available. Got stuff for the kids and a lot of great salads, too, at Town Square Pizza on North Boulevard downtown, facing what else? Town Square. Now the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest jump of the weekend in Game 3 for LSU. They won this game in a run rule 11-0. But William Schmidt, we said, look, first outing, okay, but the pitch count got up there for 4 innings. He walked 3 and he went to a lot of 3-ball counts. So the pitch count kind of climbed on him a little bit. This was better. Now, he still had to throw 91 pitches to get through 5 innings, but only 1 walk this time, Dan, and he didn't give up any runs. There was a situation where he had a runner at third base and only 1 out, and he rears back and he gets a strikeout. There was another time where the leadoff man gets a double and he got out of that. A leadoff single and got out of that. So he worked himself out of jams a couple of times. I didn't feel like he worked as behind in the count as he had in week number 1. The strikeout totals have been there. They were there in week 1. They were here again with 7 and 5 innings. But it seemed to me that they named him the MVP of the tournament, which is wonderful. But I thought he made a jump from week 1 to week 2.
Definitely a big jump. I'm sure Jay and Nate Yeske are very, very happy. This is the William Schmidt that was going to go in the first round of the draft. This is the guy that they really worked hard to get him to stay and come to LSU and pitch. The key is, can he do this 2 or 3 times in a row and be consistent with it? When his stuff is around the plate, he's very, very, very good. So that was a great sign. That's one of those step ups. And then you got to be a little careful. Can he continue that, and can he even improve off of the previous performance? And I think that was really a very good thing for Jay Johnson.
When you watch Schmidt, I'm just going to ask you about command, because that's really the only thing here. If he's got good enough command to miss this many bats, then what adjustments or whatever you're doing to make sure we were talking about earlier, throwing too many strikes, not enough strikes, but he misses again so many bats. So you tell me, because he threw 91 pitches, 57 for strikes in this game. That's okay. It's not bad, but we feel like he's going to do better.
He's going to do much better. And again, getting in the strike zone is big. A kid like him, he's just got to figure out his body and repeat his motion. See, when you struggle with command, it's because your motion, you leak some things in your motions. It's got to be the same every time. The more he pitches, the more his nerves calm down. The more he gets comfortable in the role he's at, the more he works at practice in between starts. That's going to make him be around the plate, working that motion time and time and time again. And then everything works off that motion. If his fastball's around the plate and he's got a feel for his curveball, he's going to be dynamite. I'm telling you, the kid's got so much talent.
We hear repeatable mechanic all the time. You're a pitching coach. How do you coach that? And I'm just, because they know what the mechanic is supposed to be. He's been a baseball player his whole life. How do you get out of that? And if you're coaching, how do you get them back into? I mean, I almost imagine it's like shooting free throws. You need the same exact form every time when you're making shots, but your form can get out of whack. So how do you coach repeatable mechanic?
Well, you've got to do it again and over and over again. And like I said, as you move in the season. So a lot of times, you throw in a bullpen, you scrimmage, you do all that. But now the throwing in between starts, he's a regular starter. He can work on flat ground and work on his motion. I like to compare it to bowling. You got to repeat. And if you hit that mark and you have the same release point, everything's going to be fine. And it's going to be a strike. And I think he's got to get to that point where when the ball leaves his hand, he knows it's a strike. I mean, just where he gets through there. And again, the biggest thing they have with Jamie Tutko and his crew is video. So they can video him in the bullpen. They can video him at practice throwing flat grounds. They've got video from the games, and they can pick up the tiny little flaws that occur and then work with him, film it again, and just keep working. And as the year goes along, you'll get better and better and better with it.
What does the flat ground give you as far as, an advantage in training? Why is flat ground throwing so important?
Because you can't pitch every day. Your arm's not made to pitch. Okay, so you throw hard, take a day off, do some running, but you got to throw. And a lot of times guys have to learn how to throw at 60, 70%. You shorten the distance off a flat ground. And all you're really doing is working on your mechanics and your motion and getting a feel for the baseball. It's like a hitter going in the cage and working off a tee. I mean, they've got to get their swings in. They've got to work on controlling the baseball as a batter. And then for the pitchers, it's their cage work. They've got to go out there and they've got to get a feel and command the baseball at 60, 70% from maybe 50 feet, 52 feet, so that they can control it. And that's, I think, is the key to the whole pitching thing. Sure, there's going to be bullpens. Sure, there's going to be, hard games where you're going to pitch and go in the game. But that work in between to keep that motion and improve the motion is key.
We're brought to you by the Capital Area USSSA Baseball Affiliate, hosting events for all skill levels into rec all-star divisions and league play, AA, AAA, major league level, state, and national events. Lots of great events lined up this spring. For more information, contact Lane Petrie, 771-9095, 771-9095 for USSSA Baseball. And we're brought to you by Cina, located in the heart of downtown Hammond, an upscale Italian restaurant serving traditional dishes in contemporary fashion. Cina is creating a unique dining experience with an abundance of fresh local products and the ways of old. Cina, using local ingredients and delicious recipes to create an exceptional dining experience while also providing a fresh and inclusive atmosphere that can be enjoyed by everyone. Located in the heart of downtown Hammond, Cina Italian Restaurant. Dan, over the weekend, LSU used 9 relievers, and to this point in the season, I think everybody on the staff has pitched. We're talking about upwards of 15 pitchers now. So, 2 weeks to go to SEC play. How do you make sure everybody's getting enough work, and how do you balance out that workload?
Well, what's going to happen is the cream is going to rise to the top. You got 15 guys. You can't split up 15 guys and
It's actually 19. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
19 pitchers have pitched. Yeah.
Everybody's getting an opportunity, but you're going to hone in when you get to the SEC, and you're going to start going with the guys that are doing the best. I can tell you 3 guys just looking at the numbers. You know, you've got Gavin Guidry with no earned run average. You got Devin Sheeran with no earned run average. And you've got Maverick Rizzi with no earned run average. So, I mean, those guys are moving into those roles. They've been dominant when they've been in the game. So I think that's a big thing. And then, you got your guys that are starting. And, of course, you always got Zach Cowan and guys that have been around. So I think really those guys that are on the fringe are going to start either making their way up or making their way down as you get closer and closer to SEC play.
So let me throw 2 numbers at you for the number of innings pitched. And again, LSU's 8-0, so we're kind of going through this with a fine-tooth comb. In 66 innings, 104 strikeouts is an outlandishly good number. I mean, you can have a couple of guys that are punching out one and a half an 1.5 an inning, but to 104 strikeouts in 66 innings is just ridiculously good. 31 walks in 66 innings, I know, is more than what they would like. So is that a product of early season, or is it something else?
It's a product of also pitching 19 pitchers.
Yeah.
I mean, when you hone in and you start getting down to 10, maybe 10 guys on a weekend, I think you're going to see the numbers will improve. But again, you got to get people in there. You got to give them a chance. You got to see for guys to step up. This is Jay set up the schedule to do this. And so I think, he's using this time to really define some guys and look for guys to make their moves.
And one of the guys that I'm anxious to see again, I was anxious to see him the first time. I really liked what I saw, and I'm anxious to see Reagan Ricken again.
I think a lot of people are, yeah.
Yeah, well, you tell me what you saw in the game against Nichols. Because you threw 3 innings. I get that it's an early season game, but that's not one we had a chance to talk about on last week's Hannycast. So 3 shutout innings, no walks, 2 strikeouts. He did hit a batter, but that was the only base runner that he allowed. Danny's a classic power pitcher, 6'5", 220 pounds. Was one of the top pitchers out of California, could easily be in professional baseball right now, but decided to come to LSU. Dad was a pitcher in the Yankee organization. Mom was a college volleyball player at Michigan, so it's a family full of athletes. And Jay Johnson said this after the game. He said, before this guy leaves here, there's a pretty good chance he's going to pitch on Friday night for us at some point way in the future.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's just got a tremendous amount of talent. He's a great competitor. And again, it's one of those step-ups. You put him out there and you saw something make a move. So now this week, the guys that stepped up are going to get more opportunities. The guys that didn't pitch so well are going to slide down a little bit, and Jay's going to start moving his people up or down the food chain until he gets comfortable with what he's putting out there pretty much on a regular basis. I think the pitching's in good hands. I think that Nate Yeske's very happy with the number of strikeouts. One thing I do want to add, though, Charlie, and this has to do with the pitching staff as well. I think people have to be realistic. There's a couple of things that really need improvement on defense, and pitching, of course, included in defense. One is we've got to get more strikes and less walks, to be where we want to be. And the other thing that's happening is we're not fielding like we did last year, which was in the best year of all in the history of LSU baseball. So we can't have that expectation. So in order for us to be a little better on defense, we've got to walk less people, get ahead more counts, and we got to field the ball a little bit better and get rid of those silly errors. There are errors you're going to make that happen, but it's the silly errors where you throw the ball away or you get beat on a hop because you don't play the hop right. Those are the things that got to be eliminated, and I'm sure Jay's going to be working on that in the next couple of weeks.
If you love baseball, a tour you can't miss is the behind-the-scenes tour at Marucci, makers of the official bat of Major League Baseball. Go behind the scenes, the working facility, the wood shop, the paint booths, the finishing rooms, the museum-style exhibits, hands-on installations, and the exclusive history of the Marucci craftsmanship and culture. Each tour includes access to the campus tour gift shop featuring limited edition gear you can't get anywhere else. Plus, if you're on the tour, you get a 20% coupon off at the campus tour store and the Hitter's House, valid the same day. For more information and book your tickets, go to maruccisports.com/campus-tour. maruccisports.com/campus-tour. Dan, it's another busy week for LSU. They have 4 games in 6 days, another wraparound weekend from Friday to Monday. So I think everybody gets one more shot at this when we're talking about paring it down from, say, 15 pitchers to closer to 10. I think everybody gets one more go around here with McNeese, Dartmouth Northeast, and then UL Lafayette next Wednesday. So really it's 5 games in 8 days. But I think this is where they start to pare it down a little bit as far as the number of pitchers.
Well, the number of pitchers pares down, one, because you want to figure out who your top shelf guys are, but the other thing is your guys that are starting for you, your Friday, Saturday, Sunday guys, and then your midweek starter, they've got to extend their innings. So that you're losing some innings you could use for other people because you got to extend those guys, get their pitch counts up so they're ready to start SEC play.
Before we wrap up here, new digs for you, where you're broadcasting from today, and going to be our partner here moving forward for your end of the podcast. Tell everybody a little bit about where you're sitting there today.
Well, we're sitting here in Madisonville, Louisiana, right down the street, and I hope you saw it on the TV behind me, right down the street from Six Rings, my business, where we do memberships, teams, and we have lessons. And, of course, batting cage is available, and it's a great time for me. I enjoy the heck out of it. But right down the road is Service Hawk Digital Marketing, and, they're doing some work for us at Six Rings, but also they've partnered up with us to let us use this beautiful new podcast studio that they just moved into, moving from Hammond over here. And I think this is going to be real fruitful for us, and definitely the quality. And for me, what a great gig. It's a great thing to come right down here in a beautiful studio and have all the modern things that we can do, like with the TV and with the video that they have here.
Looking forward to working with them. LSU, again, in action tomorrow night against McNeese, and then the 4-game wraparound series for the weekend. We'll be back next Monday with another edition of the Hannycast.